We're live. Welcome back to yet another episode of Vaughn Coleman Presents. I'm, of course, your host, the lovely Vaughn Coleman. And with me tonight, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Irene Strychalski, aka Irene Draws. What's going on?
What's up? Hello.
How's it
Is that how
going?
you always introduce yourself? The lovely Vaughn Coleman?
No, I changed it up this time. I think there's a different adjective.
Who introduces themselves as the lovely? Holy shit.
Vaughn Coleman does.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, really? Okay. All right. Well, hello, everybody. It's good to be here.
Yeah. So how was so I know you just wrapped up your second Fiendish campaign, which is that's a pretty big deal. You had what, almost 200K, right? On that book?
It was over 200K. We hit 200K.
Oh, you did? Okay. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we did. It was great.
But before I get into that and like where you are now with your succeeding and all that, what made you get into comics to begin with? Just drawing?
Well, drawing, I've just always been an artist. It's one of those things where I think most people who are artists, they've just been drawing since it's one of those it's not when did you start drawing? It's everybody was an artist when they were like 2 or 3. It's just, us who are still doing it never stopped. And that's just the case for me. And I think I figured that I was pretty good at it and I just never stopped. It's also kind of a family thing. My mom was an artist. It was weird. She did it professionally briefly, and then she quit. So Taiwan is weird. There's not a lot of opportunities for professional art. So she eventually couldn't get work in art anymore. And then she was against me doing art because she thought I'd starve. But anyways, it's a different world.
But you're not starving, right? As far as we know.
I'm very much not starving.
That's good.
But yeah, it's fortunately, it's a risk though, because doing art is a risk. So I understand where she's coming from. But yeah, so art is just something I've always done, and all kinds of art, painting. Before I read any comics when I was really little, it was drawing, painting, sculpting. I still like sculpting actually. But I think the first comics I read were I grew up in Taiwan, and in Taiwan it's Asia, so we have manga everywhere. Like I didn't even know American comics still existed until I was a teenager, and so the manga is so ubiquitous in Asia that we get the Chinese translations of manga like a week or 2 after they come out in Japan. This was back in the 90s. So if you go to like the dentist office, anywhere where you would have kids and you want the kids are sitting in a waiting room and you'd want them to not break things and run around, you put manga there. So that's how I started reading manga. And I don't even remember what the first series I read was, but the one that I latched onto first was Case Closed. In English, it's called Case Closed. And I think in Asia it's called like Detective Conan. It's like this little kid he's actually he's like a genius high school detective, but he took some drug and he became like a 6-year-old.
So it's pro drugs?
No, he was drugged by some like weird concoction by evil corporation, and then he became a little kid and he's hiding his identity, and he's solving crimes and stuff as a little 6-year-old, but he has to do it covertly. And I think that's what got me interested in mystery stories. So that led to me reading stuff by like John Grisham as a teenager, and then like liking mysteries, and then eventually, well, I guess Lovecraft is kind of mysteries, but things it just got darker and darker. But anyways, so that's how I started reading manga. It's just really ubiquitous in Asia. It's great. I'd love to see America become that way again,
Yeah, I mean, it's weird in America because it's like I've had people go, I mentioned like I read comics and like they still make those. Like people in America, it's just like they don't even know that they still exist. Oftentimes, they have no idea. Whereas there's like everywhere. Doctor, it's funny. I was actually telling my dentist about it, and he was like, "We'll carry your stuff." So it's funny that you mentioned you discovered stuff in a dentist's office.
Oh, really? Oh, that's so cool. It's so weird. It's so weird who you think is a normie actually knows about comics, because
I don't even know if he does.
Oh, like, or who's like how people react to it, because I'll tell people like, I don't know, I'll just be talking to my tax lady or something, and then I tell her what she does, and she's like an accountant, a tax lady, that she's not into this nerd stuff at all. She doesn't even watch Marvel movies, but then she thinks like I gave her a copy of my comic. She thought it was super cool. But then, and it's like once in a while, it's one of those things where it's strange. You never know how much it permeates or how much what areas of American culture it's penetrated, because a lot of normies I meet, I'll tell them what I do, and they just like the conversation will just stop, because I'll be like, oh, I'm an illustrator, I draw comics, and they're like, whoa, so what that's like? I'm like, it's fun. And then they're silent, and that's the end. And like, we have nothing in common, because they're like, well, do you party? I'm like, no, that's not my thing, I just draw all the time. They're like, cool. Yeah. So but then, for example, I had a contractor come working on my house, and he found out I did comics, and like that immediately, this was like sometime last year, I just mentioned offhand, I was like, because my comics are right here in my living room, I was like, oh, there's some comics I'm working on and work for Marvel. And like, he's just launched into this tirade of, did you hear they made Superman gay?
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, whoa, this is like a guy who like does baseboard molding and plumbing and stuff. It was wild.
That's all people hear about in comics and stuff. Even I've had like a driver who doesn't even watch Marvel movies. Like, yeah, I heard everyone hates the She-Hulk show. Like, that's people who aren't into it. That's all they hear is just how the weird stuff. I remember there were articles that were like, my mom's like, what? Thor is a woman? She was, yeah. That doesn't make any sense. Or I remember she saw even I was showing my mom some like Wonder Woman just casted. And she saw some of the new art. She goes, God, I hope that's not Wonder Woman. That's the one I grew up with. Because they like gave her pants, which was like, I don't know, but yeah, it is interesting. People. So did the guy actually read comics, or did you just like see that headline?
I didn't really ask. I think he just saw the headline. I don't think he really read. I think he read comics when he was little, and then it's just like, now it's one of those things where, hey, I read this when I was little. Why are they changing it now? Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of normal, regular people are aware of that, and it kind of sucks, because that shouldn't be what people are talking about. It should be it should be about the stories and the characters, and comics should. I mean, I think if American comics were about the stories and the characters and the merit, then we would have comics in convenience stores and every deli and every grocery store, like in Asia.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely, I never hear, I mean, granted, I don't, I'm not in Asia, but I don't hear any of this kind of conversation from over there much. I really don't. I don't think it's really a part of it.
Mm-mm. No, I know some of like this woke stuff, they've been trying to seep it into Japanese culture for a while, but Japan is obviously pretty resistant to it, and that's great, because it's cultural imperialism, and it's also really silly that it's like in America we have, it's sort of this progressive, even though it's not really progressive, but I think everyone here knows what I mean. This ideology is presented as, well, it's inclusive, and well, you have to be tolerant. But in Japanese culture, they've already had their own form of LGBT comics, so to say. They've had boy love, they've had girl love, and they have their own way of being inclusive, so to say. But it doesn't destroy their traditional culture, and it doesn't it's not taking over shonen, it's not taking over seinen or shoujo, and they still have like it's like Japan is a sane comic industry, so they have no need of this diversity stuff from America, because they're already diverse, and the stuff we're pushing is a complete lie. So I hope that it's one of those things where I feel like our culture is going insane right now, and I think, unfortunately, it probably is just we're gonna have to let it burn for a while, and we're gonna have to look overseas to their business model and look at what they're doing right and rebuild.
Yeah. No, I agree. Sorry, the chat was funny. No, but it's definitely like, even I have more friends that read manga than read comics, like by far, like around my age. It's not even close. Same goes for, I have friends that like the Marvel movies, but as soon as those stop being a big deal, they'll be out. They won't be like, I found out through the movies, and that's how I moved into the comics. Most people, I don't think, will do that. I don't think they'll do that at all. I think they have, which I think is fine, for the record. I think it's perfectly fine to just watch the movies, Like, I certainly had my appeal, but then I wanted more these characters and wanted to see where's the stuff that all these villains come from, because they're pulling them from somewhere. And, and so that was it drove me. And I think manga generally, It's weird because people always say one of the common things I hear is, well, we don't want it to, if it's the same, it's just going to be you're expecting the same story, right? That's always the argument I hear. And then I'm like, for example, Infinity War, I'm not sure if you ever saw it. They were like, I'm like, were you shocked at the end of Infinity War? And they were like, yeah, we were all shocked. And I was like, well, that followed the comics. So clearly, if you never read it, you would be shocked by whatever it does because you're not familiar with the source. It's really weird. It's just a lot of really weird stuff. But so you were doing all this, so you got into the comics and stuff, and you had some favorites. I know you mentioned. I already forgot the name of it, but
Case closed.
Case closed. Okay. Did you have any other favorites?
Well, it's more. That was the first series, and it's very much a shonen series. It's for kids, but it's really well done. It's like a good mystery. It's like a murder mystery series for kids. You never have that in America because people would flip out. But and there would be like.
What about Scooby Doo? Oh, did
Raunchy.
people die in Scooby Doo? I don't remember.
I don't know. American culture, it's just different because it's like it was like murder mystery. And they didn't have like nudity or sex or anything, but it was definitely raunchy. And this was for like elementary kids. This will never fly in America, but Japan is weird. But yeah, that was the first series I really got into. Like I just loved it. I would go to in Taiwan and all over Asia, we had manga bookstores, which it's like a comic shop, but it's not just a shop with comics. You can go there and they have like little sofas. You can rent the books and read it there, or you can pay a little extra and take it home for a week. So it's like a library. And sometimes they would have like bubble tea, a little bubble tea stand as well. So after school, every day, religiously, I would go to the manga shop. I would buy some bubble tea, pay like 5 NT, super cheap, and just read comics there and not do my homework for the entire evening. And I read so many series. I went through all of Kenshin. I remember I wasn't an anime person because we didn't have TV at home, but I read all of Kenshin in one go. That was so good. Battle Angel Alita.
I have that.
I was really into Oguraito. If anybody knows Oguraito, so Oguraito is this great artist who writes stories that make no goddamn sense, but the art is so cool. So if you want a demonstration in the rule of cool, but stories that are completely nonsensical, it's go look at Oguraito. Yes, Battle Angel.
Yeah, when the movie came out
in Asia.
Yeah, Gundam. I read volume 3 of The Last Order. It was good. This is the first manga I really got into, but it was deluxe size. So then when I started looking for the rest, I was kind of surprised by how little it was.
Yeah, it's not a long series, really.
No, but I mean like the size, like the way I was used to reading them like these massive size. And so then when I found this, I was like,
yeah, manga is usually really small, and it's like series that are really, they blow up, and then they do the deluxe editions like Akira and Berserk and Alita and stuff like that. And then like it's interesting. It's also just manga's published models very much. Let's just get it out and let's just get the art out and stuff. And if it blows up, then let's do the deluxe editions of a bigger size, and then let's colorize it. I think Akira has a colorized edition out right now as well. It's just different. But yeah.
Yeah, that's it's so is it like released in like how is it released? Because I know we have the monthly stuff. How's it released over there?
So it varies, but the most common model, it depends on the magazine. So in Japan, it's it depends. You have publishing houses like Kodansha, Hakusensha, and then these publishing houses, they would each kind of have their own brand, and it would like one publishing house would be more focused on maybe shonen or more focused on shoujo or josei and different genres, but under them they would have different magazines. So Shonen Jump is the most well known, but there are dozens of other magazines just like Shonen Jump. Shonen Jump is just like the one that is, this is like the Marvel, or what Marvel used to be, of Japan, and that's weekly. So every week it's like at least like 4 to 8 pages, or how many pages? It's about 8 pages on average, I think, is like a weekly installment. So it's really short, but it's every week, and it's just black and white, this big magazine with like multiple series in it. I think everybody here knows what Shonen Jump is. But some magazines are monthly. Young Animal, which is the magazine that Berserk is published in, is monthly. Let's not even get into the fact that Berserk doesn't even publish on a schedule anymore. But that's just when you get that famous and big, you can kind of like skip deadlines, I guess. But in general, that's not how it works.
Yeah, no, I mean, there were always artists that could that wouldn't make deadlines, even in America too. I know Berserk. Yeah, Berserk is one of those that I know for a fact I would love it. Everyone's been telling me, I just haven't gotten there yet. But I've never heard anyone say. I've heard people say the anime isn't that great because it's not as good as the manga. But everyone I know who's read the manga is like telling me it's the greatest thing ever.
It's amazing. It really is good. It's like there are certain arcs in it that are my favorite. Probably, apparently, I have controversial opinions on what my favorite arcs are, but it is a really good series. You know, the scope, the art, it's all really epic. I think
Is that John?
Berserk. Hi, John. Hello.
Wait, what were we saying?
Oh, we were talking about Berserk.
Berserk, yeah.
Berserk 2999, right. But I think right in general, probably I have a lot of manga that I really like, but to the series that I would recommend a Westerner, because you have to be.
Oh, what is that supposed to mean?
A Westerner, someone who grew up in like the West. It's different. Your tastes are different. Okay. Well, yeah. Well, it's one of those things where when people recommend manga to a Western audience, they just recommend what a weeb would like or what's popular in Japan. That's not the way you recommend something to a Western audience or to somebody who's used to reading superheroes and stuff. I think someone who comes from a superhero background or is American, probably like One Punch Man would be a good introduction. I actually don't think My Hero Academia is a very good introduction for someone who comes from American superheroes. The art style is too different. Berserk is good because there's a lot of European references. It's set in like basically fantasy Europe. Vinland Saga is also really good. You want to go for those series that don't have all these like cutesy, exaggerated emoji faces and stuff. And stuff by Naoki Urasawa is also really good. His my two favorite series of his are Monster and 21st Century Boys. Monster is really, really good. I would recommend that to everybody. I'm going off on a tangent, but there you go.
No, it's good. It's good to hear it. I've only read a handful of manga and I watched a handful of anime, maybe more. But I think my taste is fairly pedestrian. Like Akira, I love Akira. I haven't read the manga yet, but like I love the movie. The movie's absolutely insane.
Yeah.
Cowboy Bebop, Neon Genesis Evangelion, Kill la Kill, Gurren Lagann. I love Black Lagoon is hysterical.
Yes, Black Lagoon is great.
That dub would never be made
for Westerners.
Yeah, that one would never. In that dub, you have to watch it because it would never be made today. First of all,
oh my God,
with the shit they pull off.
It's so dark and so funny. It's fantastic.
Why did they stop making it? Because it never really had like an ending.
No, I don't know. It was just very arc based. I think Ray Hiro just kind of got tired of drawing it. The one with the
little kids is like the most fucked up.
It's so fucked up. I think he probably like
really disturbing.
Right, he probably like fucked himself up in the head. He's like, I can't do this anymore.
Because it would go from like those really funny ones with that girl who calls herself Chinglish to suddenly that shit.
I love Chinglish.
Chinglish is the best character.
That's a character name, by the way, Chad. Chinglish is a Chinese character in this manga we're talking about.
It's really funny. I haven't read the manga. I've only seen the show, but Chinglish is the best. Vaughn is going to watch Dragon Ball Evolution. I actually got it. So, yeah, Mega Man gave me a copy. I got Dan Fraga to sign Dragon Ball Evolution. Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood is my number one. I need to read the manga now. I think that's one like I kind of pull from a bit, whether consciously or subconsciously, in terms of just like the way it was able, like it has this plot line. It has like a few plot lines. The characters are great in the way everyone kind of has an arc, and the way it all kind of converges in the end. I think it's so good.
Yeah.
I think it's like masterful storytelling.
It's great. I mean, did I even finish watching Brotherhood? I think I did. I'm a manga person, so I read the comics first. And Brotherhood is a series that follows the manga. Did I hear that they're doing Was it? No, it was Kenshin. Okay, I was mistaken because I heard there's a new they're remaking an old anime series, but not like fucking Ghost in the Shell Arise. They're going to just remake it the same story but with newer animation. So that's good. They're doing that for Kenshin. They should do that for Full Metal Alchemist. Oh my god, can you imagine Full Metal Alchemist with modern animation?
What do you mean?
So
I think
great.
it looks great though.
It looks great, but they can make. I mean, with a higher budget, they can make it. It is still, yeah. Brotherhood still holds up, I guess. But,
I love the Studio Ghibli movies, like those ones. I think they're great. Hayao Miyazaki's stuff. I think he's getting out his last one.
That's his 5th last movie.
Yeah, it's kind of like
because
how
he's been saying he would quit for the last 20 years.
Yeah, it's kind of like Alan Moore said he's going to retire from comics. I'm pretty sure like multiple times.
Yeah,
he's still here, so we'll see. We'll see. Yeah, but your favorite artists, like who are your favorite artists? I think when it comes to your style, or even if not your style necessarily, just who you feel like you pull from the most, or who inspired you the most.
It's a very difficult question. It's not that I don't have influences.
I asked those around here.
Yeah, it's just what? What do you say?
I said I asked those around here.
You asked, yes, that's right. I mean, but it's not like this is the first time I've been asked this, but I really don't know how to answer it. So probably, I would say, weirdly enough, the Ghost in the Shell, like 2006 TV series by Kenji Kamiyama, directed by Kenji Kamiyama. I really like that series. That was the one of the first actual animes I watched because I grew up reading manga, but then I actually watched that Ghost in the Shell TV series as an anime. I think I actually had a laptop at the time in high school, and I got a ripped DVD from some friends. But that's what made me go to art school because I was like, I didn't realize comics could be so deep and philosophical, and it was a really serious story. It wasn't. It was very much like this is definitely made for adults. It just blew my mind. So I loved it, and I started. I think that style, like it's animation, but the sort of the structure of the face and that kind of like half realistic, half manga style. I started drawing a lot like that. But then after I went to art school in America, I did start learning from a lot of American comic artists. I like the inking of a lot of American comic artists, and I can see some of it influencing Japanese artists as well. I think American artists are very good at visual storytelling, page layout. American artists are among the best. Manga kind of plays it fast and loose with layouts and storytelling sometimes.
Yeah, there's usually not as many panels per page, I tend to notice.
Yeah, and they're just kind of like, well, it serves, they'll break 180 rule, whatever. But American comic artists, like the good ones, are like there's like a very specific way of like American storytelling that I really like. So it's more about like visual storytelling. I try to learn from the American model, and after I came to America, I started reading more European comics, and then my mind was blown again. So right now, what I've been doing for the longest time is I'm trying to lean into pacing like a European comic more. So it's like I mean it's all comics, so I want to take the best or what I like from all these different genres. But as for American artists, so I came to America in like 2007, 2008. So it's I apologize to the longtime comic nerds. My influences are different, but I really like Sean Gordon Murphy's work, Eric Canetti, Jorge Jimenez, and Dan Panosian's work is also really good. Yeah. So those were the artists that were really big that I was looking at when I was in art school.
Yeah, so you pulled from a ton of different people, like just all across.
Oh, Mobius. I fucking love Mobius's work for so long. Still do.
That's it. So how much of that? Because I know you went to art school. How much of that, like? But you grew up. You grew up in Taiwan, and then you came here when you were.
Malin is offended. His art is good.
Yeah, I mean, he was very nice to me and Bobby. He's been very nice every time I've talked to him. I like Dan. So you go and you went to America when you were how old?
I was 17.
You're 17.
Yeah.
So, like, how much you grew up speaking English? Then?
Yeah. My dad's American, so I don't have an accent.
Yeah. No, I noticed that. So,
but I grew up in Taiwan.
so what brought so did you start reading American comics ever when you came here, or did you start reading them before, or was it no?
Oh, there were no American comics in Taiwan at all. I think even now, every time I go back, it's like there still isn't really American comics in Taiwan. They have, so Marvel does some Japanese translations. So when I go to Japan, you find some of they'll like select a few, usually the more kiddie stuff, like I know there's like a Japanese edition of Gwenpool. They think that kind of stuff will sell in Japan, so they have Japanese translations of that stuff, but they never have Chinese translations. And I actually, when I was working at Marvel, I was like, hey, why aren't you translating some of this stuff for like Taiwan or China? And they're like, hey, yeah. And then
what were they like?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hums and haws. Yeah, I actually asked, was like, why aren't we, because there's so much manga in America. Why isn't there more American comics in Asia? But I guess I was just a lowly fill-in artist and nobody gave a fuck what I was talking, what my opinion
Yeah, it is weird that like that we have their stuff that they don't have ours. But I guess they just don't feel like, it's worth it. I don't know. Yeah, I have no idea. But it is definitely like a weird thing.
Yeah, I don't understand.
I mean, to be fair, I mean, I know they have very different business models, but it's also like they don't release manga in America in their business model. They release it in our business model, or not even really, because it's not like they release it in issues. It's like almost like they have to adapt to a different business model for us, and I feel like we should be doing the same thing to them, even if it's just sending them trades. But I guess you have to, make sure there's a market for it, and I don't know if there is. I don't know if they're that interested. I guess we. You can't just blanket statement, but it doesn't seem to me like there's that much. I mean, look at how much great stuff, especially from Japan. Like whether it comes to video games, manga, movies, anime, like they just have so much good stuff. I guess they just feel like they don't even necessarily need it. I don't know.
Probably. Well, yeah, live action movies is definitely an area that Japan is rather weak on, but yeah, I mean, it can't be perfect at everything. It's so interesting because when I was growing up, it was definitely, America was the live action movie powerhouse and Japan was the animation powerhouse, and I didn't even know about European and American comics besides from like fucking Smurfs and Carmen Sandiego. I actually did get that because my dad would bring back, so I went to American school and they would order books from America for like English books for us to read, and you can order like Time for Kids and some like Calvin and Hobbes comics. But anyways, but ever since then, South Korean live action movies South Korea is fucking kicking ass with live action.
Oh,
their movies, their film industry is so good. They're like what Hollywood could be if it didn't stagnate and got taken over by complete weirdos. Like, it's brilliant. South Korean cinema is fucking brilliant. It's like Hong Kong in the 80s and 90s merged with what Hollywood used to be. It's so great. And I think that's good because it's, I don't know, I would love for American culture, good old-fashioned American culture, to be spread everywhere, but unfortunately that's not what is coming out of America right now. So I say, go ahead, show us your Korean and Japanese culture in all its glory.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think those movies lately there have been some really good ones. I know. I mean, I liked. It wasn't super recent, but I loved Train to Busan. I think is great. Like there was just a lot coming out. I never watched Squid Game, but I know people loved Squid Game.
I haven't watched that either, but it's big apparently. And of course they're gonna do a American version of it. So it's gonna be so bad.
I mean, I know. Wait on who did Battle Royale? I'm trying to think. What was that from?
I don't remember. No, that was Japanese. Battle Royale was
Japanese. It Japanese? That's what I thought because I had the girl from Kill Bill in there. You ever seen Kill Bill?
Yeah.
That's a good one. Yeah.
Kill
Bill. So, okay, hang on. First of all, I'm not gatekeeping the chat. You guys just want attention. Hang on. Someone said,
you're just clingy.
Yeah, they're really all right. So, thank you. Sorry. See you, Alex. He's probably already gone. But yeah, no, they get very watch Kingdom. All right, Let me look that up. Kingdom.
All right.
Do you have something to say about Kingdom, Irene?
No.
Oh, okay. I was just wondering
I've
you had a
heard it was
reaction.
good. No, that's just my default tone when responding to John.
To John? Oh.
No, I've heard Kingdom is good.
Yeah, those are good. So I know you're an artist, and we talked about your artistic influences, but when it comes to your writing, do you have any favorites in that department? Are they often the same? Because I know over there, in Asia, they typically have, generally, correct me if I'm wrong, but generally it's like the writer is the artist usually, right?
Usually, but sometimes you would have like a writer artist team, like the damn, I'm blanking on their name. The Death Note artist is strictly only an artist. So he did Hikaru no Go and Death Note and Bakuman. It's all the same artist, but he always works with a writer. But usually in manga, it's just one person doing not everything, but like the lead, and then they have a bunch of assistants, and then they have an editor. But the difference is, so even though it's one person writing and drawing, there's the editors in manga that are from like the publishing house. They have editors that are assigned to each series, play a huge role. So the editors are essentially almost an uncredited second writer. They have so much influence on a lot of these series. So it's a very different and interesting model. But writing, geez. So I've read I read a lot of John Grisham when I was a teenager. I'm sure that influenced some of my writing in some way, even though it's been a long time since I've read his work. What else have I read? As far as comics goes, Naoki Urasawa, who I mentioned, wrote Monster and 21st Century Boys. He's legit a really good writer. Really great character
to fake
arcs.
a really good writer?
Huh?
You said he's
yes.
legit a really, as opposed to...
Yes, as opposed to fake a really good writer, yeah. Of course, Full Metal Alchemist, and Arakawa, that's the creator. And I would actually not say Berserk, because even though I think Berserk is brilliant, that's not the style I want to write in. And I don't, it's like, Berserk is very much one of those series where I appreciate its aesthetics and what it's doing, but I'm not, and even though like, obviously I love Lovecraftian monsters and some similar themes, I really don't world build or write the same way as Miura did. I would say, what's his name? Makoto? No, not him. Shit, what's his name?
I don't know.
Yukimura? Yukimura, yeah, Vinland Saga. Vinland Saga is seriously good. It's great character arcs, really well researched. It's more historically accurate than anything I've seen Westerners do on the Viking Age. It's historical fiction essentially, and this guy has done so much research, and it shows. Like, because if you're a nerd about that age, like the details, the clothing, like the scissors and the tool they use is all accurate. It's insane. But yeah, I would say Yukimura. And I can't think of anybody else.
Gotcha. So, because you were mentioning your writing, his writing style is different from your own. How would you describe your writing style? What do you value most in a writer then?
I think oh, and of course Tolkien, George R. R. Martin. It's like I never get asked this question, so I don't have like a prepared answer. But because everybody asks about art but not writing. Yeah, Tolkien.
Moromi's gone.
Everybody's leaving. I drove him away. And I'm actually I have a love-hate relationship with George R. R. Martin because I hate him for never completing those books, and those books are never going to be done. But he is such a good character writer. He's seriously, the way when he does constrain himself to like, I'm just going to finish the story within like 1 or 2 books, and I'm going to tell a character arc from like complete and have a full idea. Like when he plans things out, he's so good. So definitely his writing style. I would say how would I describe the writing style I'm going for? And I think I'm very much still learning as a writer, because Fiendish I have been writing for a long time, but I haven't published my work. Most of my published work has been art. But I'm trying my best. I would say I prefer more hard world building, like hard magic systems, and Berserk is very much not that. That's why I like FMA. That's why I like stuff like Hunter x Hunter has a more hard magic system as well. It's like everything is very systematic and it's planned out. It's like things I want things to logically make sense and things to be almost a little scientific, but that's more on the world building end. Um, Other than that, I don't really know. It's not even that Berserk has bad characters. It's just different. It's just different. I really like getting into the characters. That's something that I feel American comics don't tend to do as much. I think like even though the characters are really cool and there's definitely characterization there, I think the American writing style is more like kind of the surface conflict, and there's not a lot of writers that, especially in comics, that are willing to get into the inner conflict of a character. It's almost like feelings are icky kind of thing, but I like that kind of writing style. I want to, what I'm aiming for, I don't know if I've achieved it, but what I would like to do is be able to reflect conflict externally and internally in every book.
That's so. Yeah, I always try and. Well, I think that's just basic writing. I think too that your conflict has to in some way be linked to the character's internal struggle, and thematically, there should be some sort of relation. You look at like even take Batman and the Joker, right? This is a guy who represents justice, and he's willing to like make himself more miserable if it means doing the right thing in Batman, right? And then you have the Joker, who's the exact opposite, who all he wants to do is just basically inflict misery on others if it brings him joy. And they're so ideologically, and I think that's in general what makes for good writing, is when the threat has to thematically be related to what the main character is going through, generally speaking.
Yeah, that it is kind of basic writing 101, but I don't really know how to describe it. It's like you know how in manga they'll take those, and it's not even as a hard rule. I know I was just talking to Mike Barron, and he was I mean he was awesome. He gave me writing tips and everything, and that was great. But he was saying as like letting a story breathe, and so I know that's something he does in his writing. But I think a lot of other writers I've seen from just the West in general, I don't see that. Well,
yeah, they don't allow breathing room.
In European comics, I see it more. So it's very much an American thing. I think it's probably because of the constraint to like 20 like you have to tell a full story in 20 or 22 pages. So it's very much to the point. But I think there's value to that kind of storytelling, because manga can get so decompressed and things drag on for so long.
Yeah.
It's like the joke with Dragon Ball where they're powering up forever. Right. I think a balance is good. Like let it breathe, let the characters kind of show their thoughts and have scenes that focus on just their internal monologue or focus on the emotion of a scene. But when things need to move forward, let's just go.
No, I'm totally in agreement with that. I think like I try and find a balance when I write too, is between that, the more American style, but sometimes I'm like, because I'm hiring an editor, but I don't have like the ones that are like overhead, and so I'm like, sometimes it's okay to just, if you're in a good moment, it's okay to just sit back and it'll get there. Like, you like, there are things that I find like sometimes the building up your character. I think Demon Slayer did a great job. Like if it was the traditional approach would have been by the end of the first episode, he's already a Demon Slayer, right? But instead, I like that it takes its time with his training, and then we reach our status quo, which is, them palling around hunting demons. I think sometimes that taking that time to reach that is a good thing. But I also do think, like, I'll be honest, My Hero Academia, like, I was like, season 5, it was like the first 13 episodes were like a training fight. And then the second half, they're like, all right, this is season 5. Now we're going to do an internship. And I was like, fuck.
I haven't watched the anime. It didn't read that slow in the manga, but they probably dragged it on way too long in the anime by the sounds of it.
I mean, I still like that show, but like I get bored, even though I only have like after a while, because I'm like I'm not, I can be strung along, but it's like I don't know. There's like a certain balance. I will say I like that the show made training interesting, but it's a matter of how long it can remain interesting.
Yeah.
I think so. I know you just because we can go on with this forever, but you mentioned you moved to America when you were 17. So did you finish up like high school then, or did you start? When did you start going to college, or how?
Yeah, I moved here for college. I graduated high school at 17. I don't know.
Oh, you graduated at 17.
I guess
Yeah,
that's a little earlier than.
us Westerners, yeah. It's a little,
Yeah, I know. I was like young for my class. I think it's normal is 18 for Taiwan. I don't know what's wrong with me,
hmm.
but
Well,
yeah,
wouldn't that be good if you graduated early?
I guess so.
So were you good in class? Like were you smart in class?
I think I skipped a grade in like elementary school, but it actually kind of sucked because that means you're like the youngest and smallest in your class, and then everybody like bullies you. So I really didn't like it.
So did you get bullied?
All the time. I was really weird,
Hmm.
really weird.
What did you do that was so
Trying to
weird?
build characters. I don't know. I was just weird. Like
Hmm.
I was that kid. I was that kid. First of all, I dressed like a boy, so all the girls would make fun of me, and then the boys all thought I was gay because I dressed like a boy, but I wasn't. I was just a tomboy, and I was just like I was the most ungirly girl ever. I would like everybody else would be like the girls would be like sitting under the bleachers and talking in middle school, and the boys would be like playing ball or something, and I'd run off into the woods, and I would
Was
go play. I would
surprising.
I'd go okay in like elementary school. I'd run up into the woods and shit, or I'd be drawing or I'd run off into these woods by the side of the school, and I figured out this like
Wait,
patch
during
of
class?
no, in like recess.
Okay, I thought you like
Silly.
might have just like. Well, that's initially what I thought, but then I thought it'd be funnier if you just stormed out of the classroom through a
I
temper
did.
tantrum.
I might have skipped class a little too much in high school,
Uh-oh.
but this was in elementary school. But like my idea of fun was playing in the woods, and I would sculpt things out of like mud and stuff. I was like the weirdest little kid. Or I played with the fish, and like I would have like imaginary friends, and everybody thought I was
Wait, you
fucking
play
weird.
with the fish? What do you mean?
Just play with them, like
Like in
feed
the
them.
like wild fish?
No, we had a little fish pond.
Okay, I didn't know
In the
that. I thought
woods
you
by
just
the
went
school,
to
we
a
had a-
river and we're just waiting for fish to come out.
Yeah, just like throwing the fish. No, we had a little fish pond. And we had a little fish pond in the school, but there's like a park next to the school as well. It was really fun actually. You just go feed the fish and like poke them around. But yeah,
Did you have any friends?
I had a few, maybe once in a while. It was the other weird kids. I think.
Oh, okay.
I think. Oh God, yeah. It was sad. I was definitely a bit of a loner. But after middle school, I started making friends with other kids who were interested in anime because I got into manga and anime, and that was actually a shared interest. Because before that, it was all just art. And another difference was I realized that first of all, I was weird. I totally deserved the bullying. Okay, but everyone else in my school was American born, but I was Taiwanese born, and that was a huge difference. So I would get along fine with the kids in my neighborhood outside of school because they were Taiwanese kids. But I was going to this American school with these American kids who grew up were born and raised in America. Like they're all ethnic Taiwanese, but they were born in America and they came back here because their parents are like diplomats and their parents moved back and forth. But I had never lived in America. I was born and raised in Taiwan, so I don't know anything about American culture. So I was a total outsider. That was a huge part of it.
Oh, is that what? So it was like a cultural thing.
It was a cultural thing on top of like being a weirdo. But like I got along fine with the Taiwanese kids, because we just had more in common. Like I didn't understand the American kids, and it's also.
Did you try and get into like the American culture stuff? Like how do you do fellow kids? Did you try and like?
No, I really didn't give a shit.
There it is.
What? There's what?
Well, I'm just, because you're like, oh, why do they think I'm weird? And then you didn't try and assess like what they were into.
But they didn't make it interesting. So when I started being interested in American culture was actually through literature. In middle school, we started
that'll make
reading
you friends.
Well, it's but it's how I got interested in American culture because like you can't just make somebody interested in a culture. Like I don't know. I think maybe most people have a desire to fit in, but I didn't really feel that desire. I just wasn't interested. But in middle school, we started reading more American books and American culture, and I started really liking books from America. And that was the age where I started reading Harry Potter. I loved The Giver. The Giver like changed my life as a middle schooler. And then I started reading other science fiction, Ender's Game, and all the classics and stuff, Maya Angelou, and then that's when I started getting more. And then it led to like actual American movies and.
So did you read those for class or just on your own?
It was just for class, yeah. But then also I read some stuff on my own.
Wait, the kids in class were like excited to talk, because that's like a foreign concept to me. Like kids in class were excited to talk about the books.
Yeah, we're Asian. We actually go to school to study.
Yeah, we don't do that here.
The popular kids were the ones with good grades, Vaughn. This is Asia.
What? That is so. Oh, yeah, no, I guess that doesn't make sense. That's so weird. Wait, did you have good grades then?
Nah, so.
Mine wasn't very good.
I had great literature and but mostly literature, Chinese, English. I sucked at math, so it varied.
I had there was a math class that I was in. They designed I was so stupid that they had like a math class that was designed specifically for the kids that really struggle with math, called pre-algebra concepts, because we couldn't understand the concepts.
So you had to take pre-algebra.
They made like a whole new class because we were so fucking stupid. That's not the first one. That is the first one. There was a second one in high school. They made applied physics instead of just physics, where the kids.
Is that what it is? Because I never understood what applied physics was.
Well, neither did we, but we were so they had to make a new class for them.
Oh my god! Oh, that's special.
Yeah, it was very special.
It was always shocking. It's like, I know the good American schools are really good, but fucking American public schools are shit. Because
that one wasn't bad.
After it varies, I guess, but I remember coming to the U.S. and realizing that a lot of kids I met here who went to American public schools had a worse English literature education than me, and it made no sense. It made no sense. And I remember, it was art school as well, and art school math is like stupid people math because they just assume artists can't do math. But I remember going, and I suck at math, okay? But at least I was still doing statistics and calculus as a senior and junior in high school. And then you go to college, and our first math class is like fractions. It was absolutely ridiculous.
So were you looking down at us Americans then?
I was looking down at your education system. It's not your fault. It's the fucking shit education system. I really think it should be better.
So then, what did you? Then you go off to college, and what was that like here? Because that was your first time in America going to college. So that's very different, like from like just going in through the U.S. school system. Did you have any trouble adjusting then, coming from Taiwan?
A little bit. Actually, I had been to America before, visiting family, because I had family in New England, but I never lived here. So the first time I lived here was for college, and it was an experience because it was very much just dropped here on my own. My parents flew me to Savannah, and they're like, "Bye, here's $100."
$100?
Yeah, because that's a lot of money in Taiwan. So they thought you'll be fine for a few weeks, right?
That got you like maybe the ride to school, probably, right?
Yeah. Well, it's like I lived in the dorms and we had meals, so it wasn't that bad. But then I very quickly found out that $100 wasn't worth shit in America. So, but yeah, it was more. There was definitely actually still some culture shock because speaking English and just like reading the literature is a huge difference from living here and experiencing the culture, because America is like an extrovert culture. And I remember I was first of all, I couldn't understand what anybody was saying because I was used to New Englanders, and then I was in the deep South Savannah, and I had no idea what anybody was saying at all. It was like about 2 weeks before I understood what a deep South Georgia accent was saying. But like people don't ask how are you in Asia. You don't do that? It was weird. I was at checkout.
What do they ask you
or something? They don't. We just like keep our heads down and
wait. And you got bullied by those people?
No, I got bullied by the Americans because in
No, but
Taiwan,
I'm saying in Taiwan. Oh, the Americans. Okay. So
yeah, it was the asshole American kids who were CEO and diplomats' children's who moved back to Taiwan. I thought they were better than all the Taiwanese locals. Those are the bullies. But yeah, it was just like culture shock because people were so extroverted. I remember I was weirded out when people would ask, "Well, how are you?" And they'd be like, strangers will strike up conversations with you, and like I wasn't used to it. It was weird. I thought they were being weird and stuff, but it's you learn that that's just how American culture is, and I quite like it. I grew to like it. I think it's one of my favorite parts about America is how confident people are, how outgoing people are, and I think in general, like even though right now politics are really weird and divisive, but really on the street, regular Americans still like there's this camaraderie in American society, I think, and it's like you can talk to anybody on the street, and I love that. It's not the same way everywhere else.
I didn't know that it was so introverted out there.
It is, yeah, and Taiwan is a fairly high trust society. I think island cultures are like that, but like if you go to like mainland China, can't like you have to literally keep your hand over your wallet the whole time. Like you can't trust anybody. You don't really like strike up conversations with everybody. It's every man for himself. It's Japan is also like more high trust and safe, but it's also Japan and Taiwan are similar in that it's very much an introvert culture. You just like kind of talk when you need to talk, but speak no more than that. Just how it is.
Gotcha. So yeah. So
That's
okay. So
why Americans are stereotyped as being loud as shit every time we travel, which is true.
you sure it's not just you?
It's mostly me, yeah.
Yeah.
But I learned it from you guys.
Yeah. And then multiplied it. No, so okay, so you finished up college and then you ended up when you you majored in art, right? And so you ended up going to work at Marvel, or what did you first do?
I worked in animation first. So, well, technically, let's see. I guess it was all at the same time. So I did an internship in gaming because my minor was in animation, and I couldn't quite decide what I wanted to do, comics or animation. So I did an internship in gaming, but then I got
Are you a gamer?
No, I just there's money in making games. I barely play games.
Fake fail.
No, I'm not. I'm not a gamer. I'm not a fake gamer because I don't claim to be a gamer. It pays well if you draw for games. But then in senior year, I got it's like a small 11-page gig with Marvel. That was for Deadpool Family. Technically, that was my first job from Marvel, but it was just a one shot. So after that, there's no guarantee of more work, and I needed to pay the rent. So I went to work for animation, and I actually worked in television animation and kind of mobile gaming and not AAA games, but basically every other type of gaming. But for years before I realized I really missed comics, and went back to Marvel, realized Marvel had gone insane at that point, and then left and did my own thing, and now here we are.
So you did Deadpool Family, went to gaming for years, and went back to Marvel. And did you? Was there anything particular you wanted to do at Marvel?
Not particularly. I think it was always definitely just to. It's what would you call it? To serve. It was like perfunctory. It's not like it was my dream to work for Marvel. I wanted to try and find a way to build my comic audience because I had professionally just been an animation artist until then, but I knew deep down I always wanted to do comics, and that's what I majored. I majored in comics, minored in animation. So I wanted to find a way to build an audience for what I eventually put out my own comic. So my idea was I'm going to work for Marvel, hopefully pick up an audience for my work, and then I'll do something indie. And so like hopefully some of those people would carry over, which is not true at all. Even though working for Marvel, I think there's definitely things I learned, and there's definitely it was still a useful experience. I don't think the audience really carried over in the end, but it is what it is. It's mostly the books they put me on. It's like not my genre at all. But yeah, it was really just a job, and that's fine.
So what did you mostly work on then?
Oh, Marvel. They put me on a bunch
right?
Yeah, they put me on a bunch of YA stuff, yeah.
Yeah. And that wasn't your I never read any of it. I don't think I was a target audience either.
I don't think I was. I think
that's what I'm.
They thought I would like love working on this, and I was the target audience, but I wasn't. I was like,
did you ever tell them like anything like that?
No. I think, I think I did mention I would like to be, because I forgot what writer I was working with, but there was like one or two times. There was like one time when I was actually asked what I would like to work on, and I mentioned that I like some more. I prefer horror, and I like more psychological, darker stories. And they then that was, I think that's why they put me on Silk, and I actually did enjoy that. Silk was like the one series I worked on in Marvel that I liked.
Oh, they put you on the Asian girl character. That was intentional?
I don't think so. I think it was more of like a girl thing. But see, every single book I got put on at Marvel was like a girl lead, and I eventually got kind of weirded out by that. I think it was definitely a thing. They're like, you're the girl artist, right? Yeah, but even when I did the 11-pager, so it was one issue with 3 11-page shorts by 3 different up-and-coming artists, and I was the girl, and I got put on Lady Deadpool, and the other 2 artists were guys, and they got put on like the other versions of Deadpool. So it was like very obvious.
Yeah. Did you enjoy your time at Marvel at all, or like were you close to any of the writers or anything?
Nah, it was very just functional, perfunctory. It was like business. Didn't really get to know anybody. I did meet some of the people I worked with, because I did travel to New York Comic Con. I was living in Taiwan, but I would fly to New York Comic Con. I would meet some people I worked with. I did make some friends working on Silk. I met I don't even know I should name them. They might not want me to name them now, but
well, they're your friends, aren't they?
I think they're my friends, but I think they haven't really spoken to me for a long time. And they're super woke, but honestly, I don't have a problem with that as long as you're not an asshole.
As long as they don't, it should be simple. Just don't destroy your fucking life. But I guess that's too much to ask.
Most people I know, because people in the arts are just really liberal. Most people I know are really liberal and progressive. That's fine. It's not, as long as you're not an asshole. So I was good friends with Tana Ford and some other, and I met some fans through working on Silk that were really great, really great. There was like kind of a little bit of a Silk fandom and camaraderie there. I don't know if they still like me, but I still like them. I have no problem with them. But yeah, not on any of the other series, It felt like a very it's not like how things are here. Like people didn't really speak openly. It felt very stifled. That's how I would put it.
So was it just you just had to it was hard to make friendships? Was that because hard to make meaningful stories? Like you didn't have, it sounds like you didn't have a close relationship with your writer then.
Well, because it was very much like Marvel would assign us on projects. Like, because I was just a fill-in artist. I didn't really get to choose what I worked on. They would offer me like, hey, we're looking for somebody for this gig. Can you take it? And I'll be like, yeah. And they would already have a writer on, and or like they would say, well, we need a fill-in for like Miss Marvel for these couple of issues. Can you do it? And usually I would say yes. So that's how I would get the gig. That's what I did for like probably 3-4 years. So it wasn't like I wasn't in a place to pitch ideas with a writer, or I think I volunteered to try to do a little more. I think they mentioned through the email chain once that they needed like a costume design or something, and then I just did some designs. Like, what do you think? And they're like, I got no reply, and then they went with somebody else's design. I was like, well, that's great. I mean, you could have at least just told me it sucked, or that told me we didn't need it, but well, it is what it is.
How long did you work at Marvel then?
4 years.
4 years? I'm wondering because I'm looking at because I look at the issues on Comic-Con. You did like a few issues of Silk and Unbelievable Gwenpool and Astonishing Spider-Man. What else did you what did they have you working on primarily though?
It was mostly Gwenpool at first, and then Silk, and then they had me just scattered. They just threw like scattershot threw a bunch of shorts, minis at me and at the end, and it was like really sporadic work. So when I was working on Gwenpool and Silk, that was relatively steady work. I was not the main artist, I was the fill-in artist, but at least like I could, I would get a gig like every couple of months. But on after that, I was like, did I do something wrong? Like I don't know what it was, because like I wasn't talking politics. I just like kept to myself, but it just stopped getting work from Marvel.
You
I
should
just
have accused them of racism.
Right. Yeah, I should have done that and would have gotten tons of work. I mean, maybe it's just, I don't think it's really anything wrong on their part. I think I just wasn't drawing in my style. So my work wasn't as good as it really could have been. And I really didn't know how to ask for something that I felt like I would actually be good on, because it is one of those conundrums where I really wanted to ask for something like, and it was really frustrating because I had samples of the Punisher from and of like some Spider-Man pages from college, and I showed that was part of my portfolio, but they didn't hire me for that, and that's like kind of the stuff that I really wanted to do. But that was also old work, and I wanted to ask them for work that for more gritty or horror focused series, but I didn't have it in my portfolio because I've been doing like YA stuff for 4 years at that point. So I was like,
so you were like typecast.
I was typecast. So it wasn't their fault. I blame them for putting me on girl books, but I don't blame them for not putting me on like, well, it's not their job to sort of like make my career for me. So that's when I decided that I was going to start drawing a fantasy series like I always wanted to. And I started working on Fiendish, and well, lo and behold, it turned out to be much more, and I didn't need them anymore after I started that.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's so weird because I hear the way people talk about the Marvel offices back in the day, and that it was like a family there. So just to see it where it is now is just so shocking. Because like I hear that everyone, they talk about, even like Graham was talking about the Batman artist when I was talking to him this weekend. That was DC, but it's like the office. It was like they all knew each other and they would bounce ideas off of each other in the office. You hear the way they talk about in interviews. Like when I interview people, they talk about, and it seems to me like like that wasn't the case at all there.
No, maybe it was also that I was a bit of an outsider, but also no, because I went to school for comics and I know people in comics. I bounced between living in Taiwan and America after college, but like I'd been to comic conventions. I know a bunch of comic artists, but it was this weird thing where it's just like you're right. It's part of the reasons where I found what we have in Comicsgate really invigorating is that there is camaraderie. I mean, like people fight. That's just how artists are. Like honestly, artists are difficult people. That's just how it is. So yeah. But like at the end of the day, I was so shocked and I had missed this so much because I hadn't felt like I was around people who really just loved comics. And it's so sad to say that because I didn't feel that when I was working in Marvel.
That is insane. But I'll be honest, it shows. I don't think most of the people, for example, working on the X-Men stuff, I would be surprised if a lot of them grew up reading X-Men. I really would.
I don't know what they grew up reading, but I remember.
And I'm not saying you have to have been a fan of it. I actually think we need new perspectives like yours, but like people who even just have a passion for stories,
Well, yeah, and I don't know. I don't think I should write any superhero books unless it's I really spent like a year doing research. I would have to read the whole catalog because I didn't grow up with it. But like I think I'm fine as an artist, but if you want to write it, you need to know the whole history of it. But I do think
probably didn't read anything that wasn't written by Karl Marx.
Yeah, you're right. I do think a lot of the writers at Marvel and DC and such now, they didn't have that commitment of let me read the back catalog of the people that built these characters before me. They really came into the industry with let me insert my ideas onto these characters. And that's the total wrong way of doing it. And they just didn't love comics. Because I remember like there would be small pockets in the mainstream where I remember like the Essential Sequential gang. If you know, like they all shared art dealers, kind of like Sean Gordon Murphy, Eric Canetti, Sean Crystal, Mateo
Right. I
Solera,
think I've seen
all
them.
those like really inky artists. They share the same art dealer, and they always like walk around like a little mafia at conventions. Like they're small pockets, and there's like some studios that come and go. And I think like who is it? Carrie Randolph was part of the studio in New York as well. Carrie Randolph was really good, by the way. And so like creators and artists among them, they would form like little gangs and little like pockets. But at the actual companies, like the company level, it really wasn't there because like I remember meeting my editors when I went to New York Comic Con those couple of times when I was working at Marvel, and it was like I had nothing to talk about with them. Like it was the weirdest thing. They were very nice to me, but we had nothing to talk about. And it's so weird because shouldn't you love comics? And like even if you didn't grow up reading the same exact comics as me, I mean, like
The medium.
if you meet someone and we're both working on Gwenpool, well, we're meeting face to face, we're going drinking. Let's talk about what we can do next on this series. Let's brainstorm
even
story
right
ideas.
now.
There was none of that. I was like, really, I don't even know what people talk about. Just nothing I was interested in. And I was like, I feel like I was back in high school around the popular girls who were talking about their weird like nail polish, and I just wanted to talk about comics and draw.
That's so bizarre to me. That's oh man, it's amazing to me. The having you describe that really shines a very bright light on what like I think everyone kind of knows is a problem. I mean, I don't, it's so because you talk to these older professionals, even if they're not that much older, and it's like they'll talk about how they were so excited. It was their dream to work on these characters. Again, I talk about Graham. Graham would talk about how he'd grow up reading Batman comics, and then it was like his dream, and then to work in Detective Comics. And then it's like so weird. And they'd be in the office. Denny O'Neil was a legendary writer, so he was editing and they was mentoring all these people. And then the way you describe Marvel, it's just like, ugh. It's just, it's just sad.
And it was really weird because I remember being in art school and like the things that my professors were telling me and all of us who are majoring in sequential art about how to break into the industry and how Marvel is and like how they remember the bullpen and the atmosphere at Marvel was like we graduated and we did all the things they told us to do. We went to conventions, we showed our portfolios, and nothing they said was true because things had just changed. It's like in a span of like 5 years, it's just complete 180, and it just got worse and worse where not only was the model of getting in the industry, not just going to conventions and showing your portfolio and then sending in samples and just like banging on the door until you got good enough to be let in. It was making the right friends. That was essentially what it became. Then eventually it definitely like it's now we know part of it is also checking the right boxes, but it's more importantly than that, it's making the right friends and saying the right things. And if your work is really good, of course that counts for something, right? There are definitely a lot of really good artists, but I think most of them are grandfathered in. And I think that's what a lot of them don't understand. Like a lot of the people I mentioned before that I really admired when I was in college, I think they're a little blind to how the industry is now and why it's Marvel and DC are completely unappealing to someone of my generation of artists or people who are even younger because the mode to get in isn't based on merits, and like the people who are there aren't there for comics anymore, and it's so obvious. So like these people, they're already grandfathered in and they got in based on merit. They already have a name for themselves, so they're safe, but they have no idea what it's like for us that are coming in afterwards.
It's so insane to me. So because you mentioned like checking box and whatever, do you ever feel that you were treated like a diversity hire?
Yeah, definitely.
Did you find that empowering?
No, it sucked. It was
Like
terrible.
what was some of this, did they ever say anything to you like that?
No, it's one of those things where they don't come out and tell you you're a diversity hire, but I got really annoyed by how do I put it? It's like I would make mistakes. and I would send it in, and they wouldn't catch it. I would catch it on reviewing my own work, and then I'd be like, "Oh wait, are you going to print? Yeah, I fixed this mistake I made." And I'm like, "I'm not being corrected. The editors don't know their jobs. That like, why am I not being pushed to improve?" And also, then on top of the whole thing of, well, I kept on being put on books with girl leads, even though it's obviously not what my preferred art style is. You kind of put two and two together. So I do think part of it was like definitely a diversity hire thing. And you look at the writers that I was like, the writers and editors the writers I work with mostly really great, honestly, but it was the editors, like the editors that were put to where like the Heather Ontos, Alana Smith crowd, and yeah, you look at their politics and you realize that, oh, they think I'm one of them, even though I'm not.
Did you have your dyed red hair at the time?
I did. That probably didn't help.
That's probably listen, if I saw you at a con with that hairstyle, I would probably be like, oh, okay. Just being honest.
Red flag! I just like red.
Yeah.
They ruined it. I can't dye my hair anymore because then it's a red flag. Because all these crazy people have ruined fun hair colors.
Yeah, really fun. So that. So that I mean, that's such a shame that like 4 years and and you know, it's also a thing too where it's like you look at back in the day and these people would have their longer runs of a character. But I mean, even just pulling up your comic Vine, it's like so many. You have 40 issues and you're only on like only the top 3. You're only on the same series for like no more than 5 issues max. And then everything else is one. They just really threw you around. Yeah. I mean, back in the day, you look at a lot of artists and like, this person got their start doing this book for X amount of issues or this. And that's how you kind of build up and become a legend. And it's like, it seems so weird to me. They're just kind of throwing you whatever. I mean, there's no way you're going to be noticed if you're getting put on a bunch of little books that seems like a lot of people aren't reading for no more than 5 issues at a time max.
Yeah,
I mean, that's crazy.
It was weird. I didn't mind at first because, you know, I realized that I should pay my dues, and I figured I was a new artist. I was fine with being a fill-in artist. I figured if I filled in for them for 5 years or 6 years, and maybe I would actually become a main artist, and then eventually I'd be able to ask for a series that I actually liked working on, and then I work my way up to something like Punisher or like fucking something like Wolverine or some shit I actually liked. But with the trajectory that things were going towards, like you just mentioned, it was actually going in the opposite direction. I went from having fairly steady fill-in work for a couple of years to it was like probably short stories here and there, one issue here and there, like, and the work kept on getting sparser and sparser. And what really annoyed me was they started putting me on what was it? I forgot the name of the series. They did these like actual little kid series. I think it was called Marvel Superhero Adventures, where they had a style sheet. It was like this chibi style sheet, and they wanted me to follow the style sheet. And I'm like, I'll do it because I need money, but that was the point where I was like, this is the last thing I'm going to do for Marvel because I can't deal with this anymore. Like this is like my career is going backwards. I gave up a really high paying job in gaming in Texas. I moved back to Taiwan because that's how bad American comics paid. It was the only way I could pay rent was if
comics are booming.
Right. It was so if I moved back to Taiwan, I lived in my parents' spare apartment, and because my idea was I'm going to do what it takes to draw comics for a living. So I gave up this ridiculously high-paying job, moved back to Taiwan. I worked for Marvel full-time, and then my career was going backwards. And it was at that point where they were telling me to draw these little kitty chibi books and follow a style sheet where I was like, this is the end. What am I doing with my life? This is not going to work out. Fuck all of this.
I believe this sketchbook has a Wolverine in it. Which sketchbook?
Oh, yeah. Let me show you. Did you get it? You better have gotten it. It was on the campaign.
Sure. I didn't know you had a sketchbook.
Oh.
I didn't know you had one. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, let's see. Hold on.
I think I don't know.
Here you go.
Might have.
Yeah, look.
Oh, it's like demonic Wolverine.
These were actually commissions by a customer, and it was like, especially this Chinese guy who was like a really big fan of Venom. So he kept on commissioning me to draw Venom merged with different comic book characters. So this is like Venomized Wolverine. This is Venomized Batman. Oh, that was kind of fun. There you
That's
go.
cool.
Yeah, these are all private commissions.
I find it. I mean, just everything you're saying.
Oh,
I mean,
look.
I've heard. Oh,
Hey,
what's this?
Joe. Look. Yeah.
Oh, Rogue and Gambit. Nice.
Gambit. Yeah.
And Alita. Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
those are all great.
Yeah, I was drawing this stuff on the side, kind of hinting at Marvel, like, hey, I can do other stuff. Nope.
No, Chibi. You want
Nope.
Chibi
Draw
books.
chibi kitty books. Shut up. And,
Yeah, that's so
yeah.
demoralizing. I can't imagine if I was like came up to them and said, "Hey, I've read, 100 issues of X-Men. They're great. Do you like the kitty version?" Oh man, that's crazy. It's but it's their loss. So okay, so you decided after a while that you're gonna go over and just start doing your own indie stuff, and you were pitching that to publishers, right? Fiendish. Was there anything before Fiendish or anything?
Oh, I've been doing my own little indie comics for a really long time, but this Fiendish is like the first main serious long form series. But before Fiendish, I did a web comic called Shaman Child. So my fascination with the shamans goes back for quite a while, and I worked on a bunch of projects that never really came to fruition. I did like some short stories for like animation class that I thought maybe I would turn into a novel. Then I realized I sucked at writing prose, so that got scrapped. I think everyone. Do you have this where? I think a lot of writers have that one project where when they're starting out, they work on it for like 10 years, and they just like, but it's like, this is like your get all your bad ideas out project, and you get out all of like the derivative ideas and all of like all the bad ideas, and you learn how to write because you go back on it and you're trying to make it work, but it can't work, and then one day you realize this is all shit, you throw it out, and you actually do something good. So there was a big crime story I was working on for literally like 10 years since the start of college. That was the thing I never put out, never will. But I did a silent comic called Beads that was like a 25-page thing where it was well, like I said, it was silent, it was textless, and the idea was, it was part of the samples I showed to Marvel to try to get work with them at the time. It was to show that I could tell a story without text. Like, it was all visual storytelling, and the idea was two lovers who would could never be together throughout different lifetimes. They would keep on reincarnating and they couldn't be together, and then finally at the end they're like a modern. Then it was all throughout history and different parts of the world, and every 5 pages was like a short story, and at the end they meet again in Taiwan and they can be together again. Anyways, cute little romantic thing. And there were a few other things, but yeah, I had been doing comics for a long time, just nobody noticed.
It's unfortunate. Yeah, I mean, I've had my ideas that have had, like, one of the ones I'm working on, an idea I've had since I was in 2nd grade. So yeah, that's which, guys, keep an eye out for that. I'll be, but anyway, so with Fiendish, how long have you had that one go?
Oh, sorry?
Fiendish, like, how long has that been in your head? Like, when did you come up with that initially?
I started working on Fiendish in 2018, so it's about like 6 years now.
Oh, so it's kind of a baby then.
Relatively speaking,
I guess. Well, I guess compared to what my thing, but yeah, I mean, that's really, you put a lot of work into it. What was the idea behind it? Like, what inspired you to start doing? Oh, Travko, you're so funny. It's 2nd grade, so 4 years ago. Ha ha ha. All right. So what was it? So what was the inspiration behind writing Fiendish?
So because I'm still revealing a lot of the mystery, I can't talk a lot about the actual themes, and what Fiendish is actually about without spoiling it majorly. But there's a lot of themes in there that I have wanted to write about for a really long time. And I think at the end of book 3 is when the full sort of like the actual trajectory of the mystery and where we're going with the story is revealed. So just wait one more book, one more year, guys. But and the reason I'm doing this so we were talking about slow reveals and stuff, and I wanted to have a slow reveal because it was very annoying to do it this way because I just want to get to the point, but I felt like I need to take the time and let everybody get to know the characters and build the world.
It's about family.
So not
it
really.
is. It's about family. She hesitated.
No, but I was thinking if it is, well, because Casimir and Iskil's relationship is very important throughout the story. They're family, but it's not just about that. It's about a lot more. You guys will see. And I think it's awesome. But what inspired it? I was really into Pathfinder and D&D and tabletop role-playing games at the time, and that I realized that I really just like world building. And when I was little, I really liked Dinotopia, and I always liked stuff like, I like Tolkien and George R. Martin. And it wasn't just because like the characters are really well done. I liked the world building. Even when I do play video games, it tends to be games that have really good world building, and that's what I'm generally interested in, And I'm one of those gamers that real gamers hate because I don't play for like the competitive stuff. I play to see the world building and to look for cool art designs, and like I play on easy fucking mode. I play for the story. So this is why I say I'm not a gamer, because I'm not. I just like cool art.
I love world building. I don't know if I love it as much as you do, but so world building, is that like your favorite like aspect of storytelling?
It's a favorite aspect of it. I do really like doing it. It's just something I've always enjoyed. Like my favorite book, one of my favorite books growing up was Dinotopia, and I have it here. So I mentioned Berserk, now I have to mention Dinotopia. I was fucking in love with this book when I was little, and I
never read it, but I saw the show. I think I loved it.
There was a show?
I think so. Or
no, there wasn't a show.
All right, watch. Oh, you're so wrong. I mean, you feel so dumb.
Was there a show?
You're gonna be like such a dummy when you see this. Get ready.
I mean, does it make me a dummy that I?
Well, because you were like, there wasn't a show. Yeah, there was. Boom.
Okay.
Television series. Well, can you first just admit?
It probably sucked.
Real quick, can you admit that you were wrong and I was right, please?
Yeah. You're right.
Okay, cool. All right, there you go. Just want to make sure. Okay.
Well, what's the big deal? So, anyways, this book, I didn't grow up here. I never watched TV. I like the book. Are you done?
No, I'm done. I'm done.
Okay.
I need to read the book.
Yeah, you should read the book. It's actually really good. And the TV show probably sucked because I've never heard of it. And it's like, how would you even do an adaptation of it? Because the story is about, it's like this 19th century sailor who got shipwrecked in this mysterious hidden island where dinosaurs are still alive and they cohabit with humans. And this island that's like hidden in the mist it's like populated by dinosaurs and humans who are shipwrecked from all over the world. So it's illustrated by James Gurney, who's a National Geographic painter. He's like a paleo painter. He paints dinosaurs and historical reconstructions and stuff like that. But he's like a big dinosaur artist. So, and this whole thing, the entire picture book is done in, look.
I never read this. I should read this.
It's fucking amazing.
I just remember liking dinosaurs. I barely remember anything else.
Why, who gives a shit if there was like any other adaptation? Because like the book, the paintings, like the whole book, it looks like this. It's all oil paintings. It's like a kid's book.
Well, I cared when I was 5.
Look at this. Look at like that. This whole book looks like this, and it's like this illustrated. So this like sailor and his son get shipwrecked, and he's documenting his journey through this island and all the plants and fauna and stuff. But eventually they meet the people who live there, and you start like just the detail that is put into all the paintings. I don't know if you can see it, but see how like the decorations are like little dinosaurs, because the whole culture is humans cohabit with dinosaurs. And then it just like everything is so well thought out. What he'll, as the explorers, they go from like town to town and city to city, there's like he'll do these cutaway drawings of, oh, there's a dinosaur pooping station, isn't that nice?
What?
But like, because the society is like humans and dinosaurs cohabit, so they have like dinosaur hatcheries. And let me try to find a page of let's see, the hatchery. There's a page of like they have cutout. He does like cutout drawings of oh, hold on, look at this. This is so beautiful. Look at that page. Isn't that so cool?
Yeah, that's awesome. I always thought dinosaurs were cool. Do you think dinosaurs were cool? I think they're very cool.
I love dinosaurs. Okay, I can't find the page of the hatchery. I'm nerding out about
You ever
this.
watched The Land Before Time?
Yeah, I did.
Incredible stuff.
Yeah.
Some of my favorite.
Where is the
Also,
page of the hatchery?
Sarah, worst character of all time. Horrible.
I don't remember who that was.
You don't remember Sarah? She was such a bitch. She was horrible. She was the Triceratops, and she would like bully her brother.
Oh, she's a Triceratops.
Yeah, she's
think-
horrendous.
I think I watched it in Chinese, so I don't know the characters' names. Look at this. It's like they're using the bronchosaurus
Wait, hold the fuck
as
up.
a.
The actress was killed by her dad. What? Hold on, that can't be true. All right, sorry. What were we saying before that horrible news?
That's very sad news. I was just gonna show how
Happy dinosaurs.
The happy dinosaur and humans coexisting with it, and I can't find. Anyways, there's like cutaway drawings of buildings and stuff, but this really got my world building brain upturning, and I've always been obsessed with this kind of stuff. The end.
I'm sorry. I was just kind of looking at the. Okay. Anyway. I'll look at that another. Wait. Irene has seen a U.S. movie. Wow. Yeah, it's incredible.
I think my parents knew I liked dinosaurs, so they got it on VHS.
Yeah, dinosaurs are cool. So
you sound very sincere.
No, I am.
Dinosaurs.
No, Irene.
Cool.
No, they actually are. I had a dinosaur themed room. I'm not fucking kidding. I had a dinosaur. No, I had a dinosaur. Don't call me a fake dinosaur fan. I had a dinosaur themed room. I did. This is upsetting.
Sure.
All right. This is really fucked up. This is fucked up. They are accusing me of being a fake dinosaur fan. I can't believe that. I'm a big dinosaur.
Vaughn, the fake dino fan.
I did. I love dinosaurs. I love Jurassic Park. Have you seen Jurassic Park?
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen Jurassic Park 2: The Lost World?
The art. No.
Have you seen Jurassic Park 3?
No, because I heard those weren't good.
Well, they're not at all.
Yeah, that's why I didn't watch them.
They were good to a 5-year-old.
The first one was great. Well, I wasn't 5 when they came out.
All right, here, first of all,
I had the art book. I had the Jurassic Park art book.
How can you hate dinosaurs? What the hell, man?
I know. Dinosaurs are so awesome.
Yeah. There used to be a dinosaur museum like near me that my mom would take me to. I remember the Museum of Natural History had a dinosaur exhibit. Still does. Oh, man. No. Anyway, so Fiendish. So this is a fantasy book.
Yeah.
Let me pull it up for those that don't know. What's the best way for those that haven't backed it? What's the best way? What's the best way to find it for those that never found Fiendish or don't know about it?
Fiendishcomic.com.
Okay, cool. And so for those that have never heard of it, how would you describe Fiendish?
Fiendish is a fantasy mystery series. It is a long-form comic book series. The story revolves around Casimir, my main character, who is a hunter, the guy with the sword on the banner right there, who is searching for the truth behind the demons that destroyed his hometown many, many years ago. After his hometown of Dorvo was destroyed by these mysterious monsters, he, as far as he knows, was sole survivor. He escaped far away, grew up somewhere else, tried to forget about his nightmares. But one day in book 1, one of these creatures resurfaced again. And even though it's a fantasy world, nobody really knows what these monsters and these demons are. It's kind of a strange occurrence that has resurfaced from the past. So at the end of book 1, he vows that he's going to find the truth behind these creatures, and he sets out along with some like-minded individuals to discover where they come from, and it leads to a world-changing revelation, and we'll find out what that is in the following books.
That's awesome. So, see, I mean, I noticed you did all this crazy. You created a whole language, right? How long did that take you? What were your inspirations for that?
Oh geez, it's kind of an ongoing thing. I just started working on it probably around the same time I started working on the comic, 2018, 2019. It's still ongoing because it's a language. Like, I don't think the work on it will ever end. Maybe when I feel like I have enough words and enough vocabulary to, carry regular speech, I might move on to another language. I want to build a few more actually. But yeah, the idea behind building Ninarsa is the name of the language I built. It was kind of just functional because what I'm creating in Fiendish is a parallel universe. It's not like our world in the ancient past, not a version of our world. It's essentially an entire different universe, and I wanted it to be immersive. And it's not particularly immersive if the writing in this world is just English, or if they're just speaking English. So what my idea was, it came out of necessity where if writing and symbols were present in the story, I need to write it in something that wasn't English. And then I just, I had all the time on my hands because, again, I was living in Taiwan in my parents' cheap extra apartment. Marvel had stopped giving me work. And honestly, it was a blessing in disguise because it was kind of a shitty situation and I was very unhappy, but I had time on my hands. So what I did was build shit like this and go completely crazy and just do the things that I always wanted to do, like build fantasy races, draw like 50 versions of a fantasy map until I was happy with it, start writing like 5 different drafts of this fantasy story, and the first 3 totally sucked and I've revamped the draft multiple times, but now it's actually something that's decent, and build a fantasy language. So my goal is immersion, not only with the character arcs and the characterization and the world building, but with stuff, well, I guess this is part of the world building. So that's my goal. I want you to feel like you're in a different world.
That takes, I can't imagine how much time that took. Did you take from like pre-existing languages then a lot, or no?
A little bit for the sounds. So, but nobody creates in a vacuum. Everything we create has elements of what we already know, because it's like you have to create drawing from the real world. I think the key is to understand history and the real world and humanity enough to put all the elements together in new and innovating ways, because nothing like it's the thing where every story has been done before. You're laughing at the chat.
No, I was laughing because Zach, I had to ban my buddy Zach because he was being a nutcase.
Hi, Zach.
Don't give him attention. Don't give him attention.
Oh, okay, fine. Okay, bye, Zach. Well, how every story has been done before, it's about the new combinations you put together. You know what I mean?
No, it's definitely. I remember we would learn. So we got these and there. So words. Holy shit! All right. Last you have fuck. Oh wow! You really coward. Wait, coward is a curse word in your language.
Yeah.
Wait, bitch and slut are synonyms? Huh.
Yeah. I just didn't want to come with another. I probably will split them. I don't know.
Yeah.
Come with more swear words.
Means what do you mean? What is dark bitch? What do you mean by that?
Evil bitch. It's a name I want to use for a character in the future.
So her name's gonna be Dark Bitch.
Probably.
Darth Vader, Darth Bitch.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, Darth.
But yeah, okay. Probably pretty obviously, Fiendish, especially in its earlier stages, was very influenced by Norse culture. I'm really into like the Viking Age and stuff, and I love ancient cultures, but I have like a specific thing for ancient Europe. I just think this stuff is super cool, and I love the Viking Age. Actually, around like the 800s to 900s AD. I love like really ancient stuff, but the 800s, 900s AD is a period in history that I find really fascinating. Where in Europe that was the Viking Age, and in China that was the Tang Dynasty, which is kind of regarded as one of the most powerful dynasties in Chinese history. So, but so what I wanted to do was essentially I wanted to take from like a little bit of Slavic culture, like ancient Slavic culture and Nordic culture, and kind of like create a little bit of an amalgamation of it. And towards this more southern end of my continent, it's more Anatolian, like Turkish, Middle Eastern. It varies a bit, but I worked on it a bit, changed things around, kind of made my own fantasy versions of these cultures. So the Narcissus started out with basically having like I would just make up words that sounded kind of Norse, but then I started integrating more Slavic sounds, and eventually it developed its own sounds. And I think I added in a little Finnish as well because I really like one of my favorite bands is Nightwish, and I love how Finnish sounds. So it started developing its own sound eventually, and the actual grammar and writing system is drawn from Chinese and Japanese. So I wanted to try and do something that I think a lot of other Western creators wouldn't be able to do, or that I haven't seen people do in constructed languages, because honestly, I haven't seen anyone outside of the West create constructed languages. And that's something that I'd actually like to do in the future. I want to create an Asian-based constructed language, because like you have Klingon and you have Dothraki, and they have like you tons of constructed languages in the West, but you don't have any in Asia, as far as I know. So in my world, I have Fantasy Asia, so I might build a fantasy like Chinese language or something. But
That's
anyway,
awesome. So
but it's hard because you need to know the language very,
that's
very
what I was gonna
well.
ask. Do you know like Finnish then?
No, not Finnish. No.
So wait, but then what? How did you love the language? Like, how did you pull from the language?
The dictionaries.
Okay, I was just curious. Take it easy.
I have. What?
I said, take it easy, man.
Oh, no, okay.
No, I'm just messing with you. Okay, so that's. So you also have, you mentioned specifically not just a magic system, a hard magic system. Care to explain that? What is a hard magic system? Like I assume it means not just like jokes aside, I assume it means like, because Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood has a very like set of rules. Like this is how alchemy works, right?
Yeah, that's a hard magic system.
Like Avatar: The Last Airbender had that too. Is that what you mean by that? Like you have a very where someone like and oftentimes they'll be very free flowing.
That's more the case where if the magic system is more like Tolkien does, as much as I love Tolkien, I think he makes it work. And honestly, it probably takes a lot of skill as a writer regarding pacing and stakes and character writing to make a soft magic system work, because and George R. Martin does this as well. And so soft magic systems are sort of magic systems where it's very ambiguous what the actual effects of create like a character can do, and like it's not clearly defined. When a magical effect happens, it's the only parameters are, well, does it kind of feel like it makes sense for the general power level of the character and the situation at hand. And so it takes a lot of skill and nuance to make it work, or you can just be like George R. R. Martin and have shit happen and never explain it. But a hard magic system, on the other hand, is a magic system like Full Metal Alchemist, or I think Harry Potter as well, because Harry Potter is a hard magic system where every spell has a very defined parameter, and like whether you add to it, what you can do with it, it's very clear at how it's cast and what it can do. And like there's the power level obviously depends on like the experience of the wizard or the witch and stuff like that. But other than that, like what to expect. And I just like having that more, I think, because part of the story, I think the reason behind it is like the actual progression of the runecasters in Fiendish, the shamans, the actual ability is called runecasting. There are other different supernatural abilities, but for shamans is runecasting. I wanted there to be a very clear progression. It wasn't like my magic wasn't there just to be kind of like how in a lot of stories the magic is there to almost be a supernatural like manifestation of the character's emotions at the time or something. But I didn't want any of that. I wanted it to be very much, this is a skill progression. And superheroes are a fairly hard magic system, if you think about
You think
it.
so? I
In
think
a
it's
sense,
because I find when I build a limit into my character's powers, which I like to do, it allows for something. For example, if I say they can only use this, but in a certain way, if they have one power, you get a bunch of adjacent powers. Like the Flash, I think is a good example. He has super speed, right? But then you think of all the possible applications of just this one power. I think that helps. But it depends. I think certain characters more so than others.
That's true. That's true. As in, like, every character has a set power, and it's like
Right.
But with stuff like Scarlet Witch, it's kind of like out there. She just
Yeah.
can do a bunch of different. It's like that's a very she has her powers are kind of like general psionics basically, but also super powerful wizard. She can do anything. But with something like Wolverine, you know exactly what he can do. It's very clearly defined. So, but yeah, I think that answers what a hard magic system and soft magic system are.
Yeah, no, I mean and also I know it's because that's got to be a ton of work, but it makes it then. It's almost like because there's thinking outside the box, but it's almost like if you create the box, it allows you to really stay focused because you know your limitations. And I'm sure you felt that way with your world. I think a lot of people like I try and find that balance where it's like, because I don't know if I'm like I think I like some liquidity to my world. But I think having those limitations can definitely help guide things, right? And definitely, when you know your world or your things and the consequences of it, it makes it easier to write in a sense because you're not just thinking for the moment. You're thinking of not just how it affects the story in the world, but how it affects. Well, okay, if I have my character do this power, yeah, it's cool, but does it break the world? Does it break the magic system? And so I'm sure that must have been. It's again, I find world building to be some of the hardest, but then it's rewarding. It's always very rewarding.
Right. I think it really just takes it is hard, but what step in creation isn't hard? I mean, it could be easy if you don't try. It's one of those things where it's the harder you make it and the more effort you put in, the more suffering you're going to be in essentially, but the rewards are greater. And the more you'll improve because you'll never improve if you don't push yourself. And world building, that's definitely part of it. And I think world building, there's a lot of pitfalls with world building and where it's easy to be carried away. And I think early on in Fiendish, that definitely happened where it's so easy to just start going off a tangent and like, well, I came up with this really cool idea and this really cool character. So let me either throw in a character just because I think they're cool, or let me throw in the story element or this magic power because I think it's cool. But then you realize that you slowly build the box and constrain yourself, and you learn to stay focused and realize that the story comes first, even in an expansive fantasy world. Even if you have cool ideas, if they don't fit, you have to let them go. You can't hold on to it. You can always revisit that in another story. Yeah.
No, that's always the toughest part. I think any writer. And when you're at Marvel, because I just want to ask, like, and then lead you, back the road here, because I know you're a writer too. Did you ever try and like market yourself that way too, or was it just as an artist?
Oh, it's always just as an artist.
Why you didn't like have a desire to write there, or you didn't think they just wouldn't look at you?
No, I didn't have I didn't think I should write there because I didn't grow up with these characters. Like I have no right to write there.
Well, you probably would have done the research, I assume. Like if you were,
I would have, but it's just one of those things where it's like, and I would never think I could go in and write superhero stories when I didn't grow up with it. I mean, maybe if I went and like became a more experienced writer and like had put out other stuff, and I also felt like I wasn't there as a writer yet. I've been writing a lot, but sharing my stories with my friends essentially. I never published anything, so if I want to jump into a new genre and have to do all the research, I want to do it well. So it wasn't something that I felt like I should be doing.
I was curious about that. So now, like, but so you were at Marvel, and then they stopped giving, because I thought you quit. I didn't realize they just straight up stopped giving you work, or that you found a different.
It's weird. One of those weird things where it's not even like I quit because I was a freelancer, and I was just kind of getting sporadic work, and it was like the last few jobs I had with them. I think the work was so sporadic. I was like eating into my savings, and I was like, I need to go back to animation. So that's actually why I moved back to Atlanta. I got an animation job through some old friends I knew in animation. I moved back to Atlanta, and then COVID hit, and then I got trapped here for 3 years. Um, but I started working in doing animation as a day job, and then Marvel hit me up and was like, we need this like 3-pager. So I went from like
Wow.
fill-in issues of 20 pages to like 10 pagers to 9 pagers to 5 pagers to 3 pagers.
So
And
they
it's
were
like,
really downgrading you consistently.
and I don't know why. I mean, maybe I just wasn't good enough for them, whatever. But like,
That
it
was
was
me.
really, I took the job because I was like, I could use some extra cash. It's 3 fucking pages, right? But that was the last thing I did for them, and I never asked for more work, and they never gave me anything else. I don't know. It's like I didn't. It doesn't really matter. I think they never really wanted me around, and I had decided I didn't want more work from them anyway. So I think it was a mutual parting.
It was a mutual breakup.
It was a mutual breakup.
Did you find that like the stories they were telling were like heavily, I don't know how to say, like that
Oh, the ones I worked on?
or just in general that like they, because you say they weren't talking about the craft of the story, like what were they talking about?
As in,
Like in
as in
general,
the
because they,
actual.
yeah, because they were, you said that like the environment there that they weren't really talking much about comics and storytelling. So like
Yeah.
what is there to like, is was there was just no creativity flowing, like there had to, or like
Well, again, I wasn't really in the email chains with like the writers. I'm sure among the writers they taught more about the story and they would have direction about, well, we're doing this event and how do we do it. So I worked with some writers that I actually really did enjoy working with. I forgot his name at the time, but the Silk writer actually I quite enjoyed working with, and I thought Chris Hastings was not bad. I forgot. I think he was actually, was he the One Poo writer or a Silk writer? I don't remember. It was years ago. But other than that, especially the like Kitty stuff, and when they had me working on those like Miss Marvel fill-ins, and oh, I did Squirrel Girl.
nice.
Yeah, great. I did Squirrel Girl fill-ins as well, and some like,
A-listers. Oh, fill-ins for Squirrel Girl. That's even better.
yeah, it's great. And like all I remember from that was, oh my god, these stories were so boring. They were non-stories. There was one like 5-pager that was like when Stacy goes to get pastries and Venom attacks and she defeats Venom and gets her pastries. And that was their idea
Riveting.
of the story. I know. And then
You know,
another
Mike
story
Barron
was
always says you gotta know, you have to make sure the reader cares what happens next. I don't even think I'd care to read it.
it was horrible. It was so boring. It was so boring. I don't even know what I was doing. I was like, I could use the extra cash. That was literally it at the end.
So who did you pitch Fiendish to when you started? Were you always gonna crowdfund?
I was always thinking of it, yeah, because after I started realizing that I was never going to get anywhere with Marvel, that's when I started becoming aware of Comicsgate, and I didn't know too much about it, but I saw. I came across like Richard Meyer's videos, and I was like, "Well, he's an asshole sometimes," but I kind of agree with what he's saying. And,
Did he say anything about you or your
no, I
art?
don't think. No,
Oh,
I
okay.
don't think.
I was just
Not
curious.
that I recall. I mean, I was a nobody. Nobody was talking about me. But so that was interesting. But I became aware, like just peripherally, that I knew a lot of indie creators were crowdfunding, and I knew a large portion of them were Comicsgate, and it was one of those things where I was considering it, and I was like, well, but apparently everybody in mainstream comics really hates Comicsgate. I mean, I kind of get why, but I kind of don't. And I also think it's stupid. So I was like, if I do crowdfund and I do rub shoulders with these people, maybe I'll have to give up all these old friends I had. But after a certain point, I realized, you know what? Fuck it. What have they done for me? Like, I I barely know these people, and they aren't really my friends anyways. So I just decided I'd promote my book however the fuck I wanted, and it turned out to be for the better. But
Did they all
I
drop
did.
you? Did any of them stick by you?
No, not all of them. No, not at all. It was I had a couple of freakouts. I had a couple of people like really freak out. Only one that I kind of felt sorry for. There was one that got really antagonistic with my fans on Twitter, and then he was like, "Your fans are toxic." I'm like, "You were an asshole to them." And then there was another sort of like, I'm not going to say who it is, but just an old acquaintance peripherally from comics that was like really bothered about comics. And we had a conversation, tried to have a conversation, and he was like really bothered about it, and it was unfortunate, but it is what it is. Like, if they don't want to back someone's book over just politics or over who I'm friends with, that I can't help it, right? Because I'm not discriminating against anybody. That's their choice if they want to discriminate against other people for politics. But other than that, honestly, I still talk to a small handful of people that I know, a very small handful of people, because the thing is that I know a lot of acquaintances from comics, but I never had a lot of friends, because the fact is there weren't a lot of people in comics. They weren't there for the comics. And I only stayed friends with the people who actually were there for the comics and also could see past the politics. And frankly, the people I still talk to, and I don't bring them up in public, obviously, but like they know all about Fiendish, and I talk to them all the time. And it's like, we're politically different, but it doesn't matter because we're old friends and we put comics first. And like and I wish that's how things were. I think that's how things should be. But we have like we have like these crazy people who don't even love comics, who don't have any skin in the game, terrorizing the industry and making it so me and my friends who genuinely love comics can't speak about our craft openly and can't associate or work together openly because of these crazy people that have no right to have this much control over the comics industry because they didn't earn it.
Mm-hmm. It's ridiculous. I mean, and again, it shows in the work, the lack of passion. And it really, like, comics are already small enough as it is, and now we have to divide it over political lines. Like,
yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Where we're at. It's so fucking stupid. And I've always said this, that with my comics, I welcome anyone, any fans. And that's what most people do. They welcome anyone. But it's like, it's such a stupid idea that I just hate it. And everything you said about Marvel makes perfect sense with what I'm reading now versus then. It really does all come down to that stuff, and it's annoying.
Yeah, and I'm just being honest about my experience that I don't have the perspective of how somebody who came in earlier, like John or Ethan or Shane, like they have a totally different experience. But it sounds like their careers there were totally different. I'm just speaking honestly from what I saw when I was working there. And it sounds like it's night and day. It sounds like things have become really toxic, have completely changed, and I didn't enjoy it. And the one thing that I took away from working in mainstream comics was it wasn't about comics anymore, and that was the worst part.
Oh, actual good wisdom from Zach, bro. 8-year-old me would have thought that you had to be political to make comics. Comics don't change the world; they change your world. No, exactly. And I'm Zach's editor. You know how much I've read his scripts. You know how much my editor's notes contain politics? 0. It's not about that. Like, it shouldn't all be about that shit. And that's what everything feels like it's about. Every time I think it's not about that and I relax and I get up, then a character is going to come up and just like, it's always something. And it's not fun. It's not fun. And it's
right. Well, you can talk politics, but the thing is, it there's a difference between talking politics and propaganda. And the way they're doing it now is very much, well, we're not just talking about a current issues. You can talk about current issues. With Civil War, that was very much a reflection of America's real issues at the time, and the Patriot Act, and I know Civil War is not the most mind-blowing arc ever in the history of comics, but it wasn't as bad as what's coming out now. And there's a way to do it with, and like Mike Barron does it all the time with Private American. He's talking about that's like an actual political issue that's happening in America, but it's done in a way that everybody can relate to. That's the important part. It's not propaganda. So the problem now is people are pushing only their side, like my way or the highway. My politics are not only the only politics that you should have, but it's like the religiously, morally better way to exist. And if you disagree, you're a bigot. And that's not art.
Yeah,
that's not actually putting the story first.
So yeah, I agree. I 100% agree. And before we before we wrap up, someone asked in the chat about because we've been going a while. Thank you so much for staying on for so long. It's always great. It's great.
Fun.
No, yeah, I know. It's great. I know you like to talk, so I set aside extra time. Not even a joke. People are like, Vaughn, why did you set your follow up stream 2.5 hours after I was like, I'll need that slot. But I did want to ask. Someone said to ask about your weapon collection, which is.
Oh, well, I don't have a super big weapon collection. I have a Viking sword.
Pathetic.
I have. Shut up. I have a crossbow. I have a few daggers. I actually I was building up a pretty good knife collection, a switchblade collection, but it's back in Taiwan because I left a bunch of my stuff back in Taiwan. Yeah.
Would that be a pain to bring on the airplane? I imagine, probably.
I would ship it. I wouldn't bring it on the airplane.
Oh, why not, coward?
I actually did that by accident once. It was like the dumbest thing. I totally, if I wasn't like a 16-year-old little girl, I would totally have been in mad trouble because I was like this weird teenager who I was really into like hunting knives and stuff and like really edgy and emo. And I had this like 6-inch hunting knife with me that had it was really cool. It had like a compass in the handle and everything and like a compartment for matches. But anyways, I brought that onto a plane by accident. Definitely got pulled aside and got asked a few questions. Adventures.
That's good. That's really cool, actually. I should be.
Don't bring knives on planes, guys.
Right. Oh, yeah. For those that didn't know that, don't bring knives on planes. All right. Yeah, I was about to. I didn't even bring my lighter for my cigar on the plane because I didn't even want to risk that when I was going to Heroes Camp.
No, yeah, you shouldn't do that.
So, you've got a lot of stuff coming up. What's Phoenix 3? When is that launching?
Should be next year. I've got a 2.5 campaign, so it's a bonus story. It's sort of a like an extra chapter that's a character exploration that the ink's already done. This is the first time I'm writing something. I hired an artist for it. So we're working on colors. I'm actually doing the colors or part of the colors. But I'm writing and coloring, but the inks are somebody else. So yeah, I'll be launching that as a shorter campaign, relatively speaking, after Phoenix 2 is fulfilled. And I want to give myself some extra time for book 3 as well, because it's going to be a big book, and I want to take the time to do it right. I think this is a kind of complicated story. So, and Michael Rushbrook, he's in the chat. He's the artist. Yeah, he's the artist on 2.5. So, but book 3 will be coming next year. And
sounds good. All right, I'm gonna keep an eye out for that. What's the best way to keep up with you and follow you?
Follow me at Irene Draws. I have a YouTube channel, and also I'm Irene Draws on Twitter.
All right, everyone, mods, Alex VRB. Oh, he's back. Alex VRB is back.
Okay, he's back.
Cool. All right, so everyone, make sure to follow Irene on everything. That's really cool. And are you liking writing for someone else?
It's interesting. It definitely is. It's one of those things where, well, I don't have my art to fall back on, so I had to make the story good. But also, I think I started out pretty easy. It's very much a character exploration. It's very light on the plot, so I think it's like I wanted to start out slow. I think it's good though. Everybody that I've shown it to, because I always try to get feedback before I release something. It's been getting good reviews. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoy it. It'll be coming out later this year.
I think we will. All right, everyone, make sure to check that out. Follow Irene on all of her socials. Alex is sharing the link. Irene will be on the after show. You, if you want, you're more than welcome to.
No, I'm busy. I got some stuff to finish tonight.
Yeah. Well, regardless, thank you so much for coming on. Make sure to follow Irene on everything, and I'll see you guys next week. I'm gonna have someone over for Vaughn Coleman Presents on Sunday, and then someone else next week. So stay tuned for that. Stick around after everyone, because in about half an hour or so, maybe a little bit longer, we will be doing a recap of Garden State Comic Fest. But until next time,
awesome.
See you guys.
And thanks for having me on.
Of course, my pleasure. All right, see you guys.